Two tonight on the Boneyard. We got Matt Corey out of Brandon.
That is correct, sir.
Absolutely, Matt. Why don't you give us a little rundown of yourself?
Hey, so first I want to say thank you very much for having me on the show. It's an absolute honor to be here. And so my name's Matt Corey. I'm based out of Brandon, Manitoba, and I'm a hard rock artist is probably what I would maybe consider myself to be. I've been playing music for, well, as long as I can remember. I've been playing in bands since I was probably 14, sort of thing. I've released multiple EPs under my instrumental name, which was Engines of Creation, which was inspired by Joe Satriani, as well as I've released, I think it's 8 EPs under my own name and a handful of singles as well. And yeah, man, music is my entire life. I don't really have anything else other than that.
Awesome. You're you're a hard rock musician with a Division Bell logo behind you right now.
That's right. Favorite
That
thing.
that shows a lot, though. That shows you're expanding beyond that. You know more than just the hard rock scene, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, Pink Floyd, man. It's funny with the Division Bell, dude. Like, I was listening to it the other day, and like, what do you want from me? Like, oh man, High
Oh,
Hope. Oh, coming back to life. Oh man, so good. Love
so
that
good,
album.
so good. I'm a Waters guy, but
Okay.
yeah, it's so good though. It doesn't matter. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you coming off a show last night, an acoustic set.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was a lot of fun, man. I played with Ash and the Arsonists and Seventh String at the Tap House yesterday, and yeah, I had to sort of put together an acoustic show, sort of last minute. My band, the Bad Decisions, we had a lineup change with our old drummer quit, and then I had to hire a new drummer, and it just so happened he wasn't available for that day. And then two of the other band members have actually had really bad health issues. Both of them ended up in the hospital actually for completely different things. But
Oh no.
yeah, so, this show was something that I wasn't going to cancel. I was determined to do it. And so I put together this acoustic set of, some of my own music reworked to be acoustic. And then I threw in some weird covers as well, deep tracks by like Led Zeppelin and stuff. So that went pretty well. Chili Peppers, there was a deep track there. But I will mention that the guys in the band they're doing much better now,
Oh,
actually.
that's good.
So,
Good, good.
things seem to be looking up anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was my first time doing an acoustic show in Winnipeg, and it was nice to just kind of go up there by myself and just see what happens, sort of thing. And I think it was received pretty warmly. I think, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Obviously, a show like last night, we had Ashley Arsonist on a few weeks ago on the show here, and when I reached out to you, obviously, we spoke earlier, just you being one of the bands I wanted to get on here. A lot of bands I've talked to, your name comes up. Who are you listening to these days? Matt Corey is one of the names. I see
Oh,
your name on Badlands Promotions posters. Obviously, I just had Dag on. Half an hour ago he was on, and your name came up again. So
oh man, that's
you know,
awesome.
yeah, it's that Winnipeg. Well, I should call it Winnipeg. I call it Manitoba. It's the Manitoba love that just spreads around, right?
Absolutely. For me, being a Brandon boy, I a couple of years ago, I really wanted to sort of break into the Winnipeg scene, and it was really cool because I remember one of the very first shows that I played in Winnipeg was actually for the Manitoba Loud Music Awards 2 years ago. And I will never forget because I can't remember who the individual was, but somebody came up to me and they said, Matt, we've been waiting for you. Welcome, and they welcomed me with open arms. And it was just so welcoming and inviting, and they really a lot of people from the scene have really embraced my music, and I am so thankful for that, because music is the reason why I'm on earth, to create my own stuff. This is why I play, so for them to welcome me in such a warm way, was so gratifying.
Hmm. That's great, right? And just talking with obviously with Dag and now with you, just about the Loud Awards. I've kind of focused on having some of the Loud Awards bands come on here just
Okay.
to kind of talk about it because it is kind of a pinnacle of things, right? You're all going to be together. There's awards. There's everyone, it's just such a positive energy in Manitoba right now. You'll see a show with Matt Corey playing with Ashley Arsonist, and then Matt Corey playing with Spectre. And there's just so many different things going on, right? It's not You're not tied to certain bands, right? Everyone's kind of playing with everyone, and all the posters are looking different.
Absolutely.
And it's just such a great thing. And just with the Loud Awards, seems that things have really come together. I've never personally been to one. I've already picked up my tickets for this one. I think I grabbed first day because I thought probably going to sell out because I know they announced Voivod, and I know that's a big thing for them too, right? And I don't know. It's just there's just so much love for the Manitoba scene right now, and it's nice to see that the heavier music is getting recognized, and maybe it hasn't been for a little while, right? And you maybe need those people to get out there and promote it, and the bands to help promote it. And one thing I noticed with social media with yourself and with, we'll just say, Ash and the Arsonist just being the show last night. A lot of bands are promoting other bands, though. It's not just themselves, right? It's not just hey, check me out, check me out. It's hey, check these guys out, check these guys out.
Absolutely. One of the things that I really recognized last year at the Loud Music Awards was it's a community. We're all in this together. We're all trying to do the same thing. So if we can, get rid of this notion of competition and build each other up, everybody wins. There's always been this sort of notion of, my band's gonna crush your band, blah blah blah. Like, and this stuff's always been around, right? Well, you remember your teenage years playing in bands, right, where you thought you were gonna take over the world, or at least I did.
Yeah.
That these rivalries and stuff. They don't actually exist. Like, we have to build each other up, and the nice thing is with this is we can all see that it's working. You're absolutely right when you kind of mentioned that loud music or hard rock or metal is becoming far more prominent in Manitoba than it has been in years. I remember when I was first coming up, bands like Kings of Leon and like kind of that whole hipster movement was really popular, and honestly that music makes me want to barf, but so it's so nice to see that, like, hard rock and metal and just loud music in general is it really feels like it's having a resurgence in Manitoba, and I'm so happy to be a part of that. It's almost like, I'm not going to say it's a dream come true, but it's just so nice to see that that style of music is being embraced by a lot of people right now.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I noticed. Sorry, I'm just flipping through my through some music here, just on yourself. One thing that really stood out to me when I was kind of just doing a little bit of research and listening to your music, you got a lot of stuff out there. Like I'm sitting here flipping through, and you see 24, 23, 23, 21, 21, 20. You go back to 2019, Scars on the Ceiling, Day of Reckoning. Then you got an acoustic EP. Like, you got a lot of music out there.
Yeah,
This isn't new to you. You've been doing this.
that's the fun thing is that I have a home studio, and I'm very fortunate where I have set myself up in a way where the only thing that holds me back from creating and releasing music is my own drive.
Mm,
In the past, you might have to go to a studio and rent it out or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I find that when creativity strikes, I try to run with it as far as I can, and I've been very lucky that, you know, if I have an idea at 3 a.m., I can run into my studio in my underwear and, you know,
Yeah.
record that lyric or that riff or whatever it might be. You know, I kind of sort of half mentioned it, but, you know, for me as a player, writing my own music and fine tuning my craft is why I do it at all. You know, what you might find with some of those EPs is that, you know, they're similar in some ways, but they all sort of have a theme to them. For example, the most obvious one is the acoustic EP. It's acoustic.
Mm.
You know, if you take a look at Concrete Jungle, that EP is far more aggressive. It's probably my most metal sounding EP, but maybe Ghost Rising as well. But I just love the idea of exploring sort of different themes, you know, when creating music. And I'm so fortunate that I've been able to sort of set this up this way because, you know, it actually doesn't take me very long to actually record an EP and release it. You know, like it's really nice to be able to do that, and I don't have to really rely on other people other than myself to get it done. And I don't mean that from like a, you know, a selfish way or anything. It's just that if I have the vision and the inspiration is there, I can just run with it until I'm done with it, essentially.
That's excellent. What are you using for a vocal booth?
So I actually record my vocals in here of all places. I have
Oh,
an F7B that I use,
yeah.
and yeah, it works like a charm. And I have, what is it, a cloud lifter, cloud filter?
Yep. Yeah. So
Works like a dream.
they're awesome. I have
Cloud lifter.
the cheap version.
Ah, nice, nice.
Yeah. You know, contrary to popular belief, that isn't a shower behind me. That is actually it is a makeshift booth.
Nice.
Yeah, you know, just I guess kind of talking about recording at home, you know, like things are a lot different. You can do stuff like that, right? That's why I was asking about your vocal booth because like anything I've listened to, like if that's you in that room, like it's come so far, right? You don't necessarily need to go into an actual studio and do this, right? Like we've done our some vocals out of that thing already, and it's literally 36 soundproof panels and a thick shower curtain, right? With
Nice.
with an SM7B in there, and you know,
Beautiful.
and it's coming so far that you can do a lot of that just kind of at home now. I remember seeing well, you were talking about earlier off the air there, Blink 182, their Neighborhoods album. I'm pretty sure they recorded half that on their tour bus.
Is that right, eh?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I remember hearing about that. I'm like, well, how'd they do it? You know, they talk about Pro Tools and stuff, which is great. I'm not sure what you use for yours, but you can literally record these things on the flyer at your home now, right?
You know, yeah, absolutely. I find it very interesting because I use Logic, by the way. I'm a
Mm.
Apple guy. You know, I don't know if I'm proud to say that anymore, but I've been using Logic for quite a while. But you know, I when I was kind of coming up and learning how to be in a band essentially and playing in different cover bands over the years, I played in bands with guys that were quite a bit older than me. So oftentimes I would hear these stories of the glory days, right, where you would go and gig everywhere and you'd make all this money playing shows and you could live a reasonably comfortable-ish life doing that. But to go into the studio and record, it would cost you an arm and a leg. Well, in 2024, it's swapped, you know, where recording is so easy to do if you sort of know what you need to do it. And like, man, you can pump out as much music as you possibly want. You know, gigging is still there, and if you market it right, you know, it's going to be successful. But it's definitely not, you know, what it used to be, that's for sure. And I don't mean to talk about it in a negative light by any stretch, but
Mm.
the main thing is that the recording piece and the creating piece, and the you know, creating your own identity as an artist, is actually really quite easy to do nowadays. And I am so incredibly grateful for that, like I couldn't imagine, being in a band in like 1993, and having, all this stuff recorded on cassettes or whatever, and not being able to properly record it without, putting a second mortgage on my house. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's so nice to be able to do that now. I'm so grateful for it. Just to be able to look back on the EPs and go, I have a memory of a goldfish at the best of times. And so when I go back and look at my EPs, like it's a moment in time, and I know exactly where I was. I know what my mindset was, where the songs are derived from, and it's all because of, the changing technologies and just how simplistic recording can be if that's how you choose to do it. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many different approaches to it now too, right? And I mean, the one that I sort of choose to use is, you know, I keep it simple, and I basically push myself to be as creative as possible, and yeah, just record everything at home, sort of thing. That
Mhm.
way, I have complete control. There's no stress, in terms of, oh man, we've got to watch the clock. Like, we're gonna run out of time. I don't have to worry about any of that. So
Yeah.
I'm really really thankful for that.
Absolutely. And that's just kind of what we're talking about is how simple things can be, and you're right, having all the control there too, right? I don't know if have you ever been to No Fun Club?
No, I don't think I
Oh,
have.
it's super cool. It's in the city here, it's on Wall Street, but there's
Okay.
something about it, and with my group we were talking about we should go and record some of these songs here. I'm glad we didn't. No knock on them, it's a knock on us. I don't think we would have been prepared for it, and we
Uh-huh.
would have spent a week in there, and it would have been a nightmare. You got to be prepared for it, right? That's why I guess doing it at home is just it's so much simpler, right? But
Yeah.
I guess just onto my guest after you, Jen Minoz, or yeah, Jen Minoz. Um, it's gonna be interesting hearing her side of things working in a studio, right? So I'm really looking forward to that because I personally have never spent any time in a studio besides the tour I took a No Fun Club, but I think I was just kind of shocked by how everything works, and the gear they had, and
Right.
it's a whole other level, right? And I think it's something that would be nice to do one day is record in a studio, but it's hard to justify it when you can kind of do it at home right now too, right? And
Yeah.
having that control over it, and if that's what you're doing is at home, your quality's coming out great too. So
Thank you. And, I should mention this too, is that, not every artist or musician cares about the recording process. Some people just want to play. Um,
mhm.
I spent a few years working with a guy who sort of taught me a bunch of different recording techniques because I just wanted to know how to do it, and some people are very fascinated and interested in going down that rabbit hole, and some people just aren't, right? And I mean, for me, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle, like if I want to go really, really, really deep and start messing with, equalizers on floor toms and stuff, I can go that deep. And one of the things that I've really sort of sought out to do as an artist is with each EP, like, they each kind of have their own theme to them, but the idea behind them is that each one is supposed to sonically sound better than the one before, and I'm trying to sort of build, this. I want to see growth within myself as a player, sort of thing, and as a recording artist, if we can say that, and I've really worked hard at trying to, improve that skill, of being able to record my own stuff and get it to sound exactly the way that I want it to sound. I don't mean to sound like a control freak, but I'm probably sounding like a pretty big control freak right now. Is that, with all of my music, I know exactly what I'm going for with it. For example, with my latest EP, Let's Go Downtown, the guitar tone on that EP is really obnoxious, in kind of this ugly, fuzzy, you know, Smashing Pumpkins meets the Stooges sort of vibe, you know, and that's exactly what I was going for. Um, and so I was able to sort of carve that out, you know, at home instead of, you know, going into a studio and tweaking and using all these different effects and getting other people's input, which, you know, maybe they understand what I'm going for, maybe they don't. You know, so being able to chase that vision is something that I've been very, very happy and proud to be able to do, you know, as somebody who records my own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, with obviously with the tone you said obnoxious, it's one of those things that speaking of the Pumpkins, you look back on Gish and Siamese Dream, and there was a tone there, right? And
Oh,
a lot
absolutely.
of it was contributed by something like that, right?
Ah, yep. That,
So
that
yeah, it's
was the
kind of
one.
right there.
That is that, that's the is that the op amp one? Is that the
Yeah, that's the
okay?
one that when you open up the box, it said pumpkin pie in it, and it's like
Yeah,
they know what they're going for, right?
right. Now,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, and I could be on this, is that each pedal had a did they not have a different pumpkin song like etched into the like this like the inside of the pedal, or am I getting that mixed up?
something like that. Yeah, I haven't really used it that much. I bought it. I went through a pumpkins phase there, and that's all I wanted was that tone. And I'm like, the only way I'm gonna successfully get that tone is just buy this thing, and
Yep.
you get it right away. So
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
it's
that's
pretty cool. So, but yeah, I guess that's the thing when you're doing albums too, right? Is you kind of got to find your way, find your sound, right? And I think some bands might go through a bit of an identity crisis. I know personally of that in the past with things, but yeah, finding your tone. Obviously, one thing I wanted to actually talk to you about is kind of what kind of gear you're using.
yeah. So when I'm on stage, I typically for an amplifier, I have actually a Fender Supersonic. And I might be a little bit biased, but like, man, that is the best amp I've ever played, man. Like, and I've played JCMs and Mesa Boogies and blah blah blah. The Fender Supersonic to me is an amplifier that if I want to go out and play heavy metal, I can do it. If I want to go play country, I can do it. Would I ever go play country? No, but I can if I want to. I have a 412 cabinet for it as well that I pull out from time to time. And then you know, as far as pedals and stuff, my main pedal that I've actually been using for distortion in the last probably 2 years is it's a Boss DS1X, not the DS1. I'm not a fan of the DS1. I mean, the DS1 is regarded as being like one of the best pedals ever. And
Hmm. Hmm.
thing they don't tell you though is that most of them have been modded. The DS1X is essentially the modded DS1, and it really gives you that like balls to the wall distortion, you know, very similar to like a lot of like 80s metal and stuff. And I love all that stuff too. So
Hmm.
that's been one of my main pedals for sure. As far as guitars go, typically, let's see here. This right here is my Strat that I have absolutely beat the snot out of over the last few years. This is actually a Mexican Strat that I've modded. I put some Graphtec bridge saddles on it, as well as a hot rail and noiseless single coil pickups, along with Gibson knobs, which is kind of fun,
Hmm.
and a kill switch, which is
Oh,
kind of cool.
cool.
So yeah, this guitar, it like honestly, it's kind of on its last legs, you know. This guitar is tuned to half step down, like standard half step down
Yep.
sort of thing. And so this is one of my main babies. The other one that I use is my Sterling by Music Man, Steve Lukather signature guitar.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. I'm not really a Toto guy. I know that Steve Lukather is an absolute monster as a player,
Yeah.
but I actually, it's funny. This guitar, I used to work at a music store in Brandon, and this guitar hung on the wall for quite a while, and I really really liked it, and it has a really weird neck on it. It has what's called a soft V neck, and this guitar is actually tuned to drop C.
Mm.
And yeah, not very Toto like, that's for sure.
No. No.
You have what's called a push knob that takes the pickups from being passive to active.
Hmm.
Quite nice. I typically do this when I can't hear myself on stage. I'll just activate the active pickups, and then it
Yep.
just gives me that little boost. And yeah, that's sort of the two main guitars that I typically use during an electric show. But I also have a Takamine that I've been playing since I was probably 14 that I use for acoustic shows, like the one at the Tap House.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know Lukather had a signature model out.
Yeah, you know, man,
Well,
it was a guitar that like it kind of surprises me because like you look at it and you'd never think that it's even a signature model. There's nothing about it that stands out. His name isn't really on it, you know, like the model is the only thing is like on the headstock you have that LK, what is that? LK 100D. I
hmm.
mean, that's about as close as you get to.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
interesting with him, with obviously not a Toto player, but I think a lot of respect actually came from the work he did outside of Toto. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those videos where he's talking about Quincy Jones calling him in for Michael Jackson stuff.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
some pretty cool stuff he laid in there that changed the whole dynamic of the song, right?
Well, that's what's so funny, right? I mean, Eddie Van Halen got all the credit on Beat It,
Hmm.
but solo, as far as I understand, and
Yeah,
Lukather played everything else.
yeah.
But yeah, no, Lukather is an absolute beast. I'm a big fan of like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, and I'm pretty sure that Steve Lukather's gone out and done those G3 tours
Yeah,
with those
yeah,
guys.
definitely.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Cool. I guess what are some other bands you're listening to right now? Is there anyone obviously local that you're spinning right now?
So, as far as local guys go, I mean, the Northern Royals just put out some new stuff that is absolutely killer.
It's so good.
Yeah, we actually, a friend and I were sitting in my backyard recently, and we were going through a bunch of the local bands, in Manitoba that have been putting out new music. And On the Fly has been putting out some good stuff.
Hmm.
The Arsonists have their EP that came out. But a band that like really, really blew me away was that, I hope I get their name right. Is it Slow Mobile?
Yeah,
Man, like
they're
that
cool,
stuff.
eh?
Oh, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it was so good. It's like punk rock with horns, you
Yeah,
know? It's very like intense and very like metal for what it is, you know? I
yeah.
thought it was awesome. It really surprised me. Like, and
I'm
I
pretty
seen that
sure I have them coming up in September.
nice.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I haven't looked at the calendar of it, but I'm pretty sure they're on there. So
Uh,
that's cool to give a little prop to them.
yeah, man, they were killer, dude. I really like. I think I saw. I don't say this to sound rude or anything. I saw a picture of them and I was like, okay, I think I know what this is going to be. And then when I put the music on and I can't remember the name of the track off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was in 9/8 and it was really fast, like
Wow.
time signature. And I was like, huh, okay, I'm into this. This is nice. I dig this.
Awesome. How about obviously I saw you posted something the other day. I'm pretty sure I commented, pretty sure it was you, about the Pumpkins new album. Have you listened to the whole thing yet?
It is unreal, man.
Isn't it
Holy.
crazy?
Okay, check this out, man. What is going on in the world right now? Like, okay, Jerry Cantrell puts out that new tune, Vilified, I believe it's called.
Mhm.
Awesome, so good. Marilyn Manson's new song.
Haven't
Un-
heard it yet.
Glad to see that he's coming back in a really big way. You know, he's lost a lot of weight. You know, his performances are on fire. I'm really looking forward to his new stuff. And yeah, Jane's Addiction has a new tune out that's pretty solid. It's kind of a
Mm.
blend of the first two albums with the later two albums, you know. And yeah, the new Pumpkins album, dude. That song Eden from the Pumpkins album, man, that is like in my favorite tunes I've heard this year, man. Like
Yeah.
the first time I heard it, man, like I'm sitting in my living room and I'm like, new Pumpkins album. They seem to churn out material quite frequently. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, sure, let's put it on. Let's see if it's anything. And man, when that song like kicks in, you know, it literally felt like my favorite team just got that winning touchdown. You
Yeah.
know, I was like, yeah, man, this is awesome. What the hell? Where'd this come from? You
No
know?
kidding, eh? Especially after like they had that double album and then they had the one before it. I forget the names, but it was just kind of those albums, right? And then Being Beige, whatever that was, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. Looking back, my favorite album from them is still Adore.
Same.
Absolutely
Oh,
love it. It's the one of the most underrated albums ever, I think.
I agree.
But I was on this drive to Minneapolis last week and thought, you know what? I'm gonna put this album on. I have all the time to listen to it, right? I thought I'll put it on, and I swear a minute into it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. And it's like they just hit the rewind button and
Yep,
went back 15 years. More than
absolutely.
15 years.
Yeah, like
It's so good.
30 almost. Isn't that weird, man? Like,
It's crazy though, just for them to turn it around like that. I know Corrigan's been he's been in the in media a little bit talking about how he doesn't want to do the classics anymore and just focus on the new stuff. And it's like I saw them on the Oceana album and they did the album front to back. And I remember being at the show and I was actually a fan of that album. I thought they did pretty good with it. But I remember being at that show and having so many disappointed people around that, oh, they're just gonna do the front to back. Then they did like a greatest hits package after and yada yada. It's what you're gonna get. But I remember sitting there listening to this whole album and thought, well, I'm glad I'm a fan of this album. I'm glad I like it. But as years went on, maybe the later releases weren't really for me. But I just remember thinking, I'm glad that I heard the album I like. But right now, I know they're on that Saviors tour with Green Day. But if I went to one of those shows and they came and played that whole album, I'd be all right.
yeah, and yeah, I'm the same way, man. It's actually it's funny you mentioned the Oceana tour because I can't remember the name of the live DVD thing that they put out from that, but Oceana, I liked it. I didn't love it. Panopticon from that album. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's
Mhm.
so good.
Yeah.
Second track. Oh man, absolutely killer. It's one of my favorite Pumpkins tunes. But yeah, man, this new album, Gory Mori May, I think is what it's called. Um, I'm pretty sure it's only like 9 or 10 tracks. It's
Yeah.
very like straightforward. It gives you, in my opinion, everything that you would want from a Pumpkins album. You've got a couple real big heavy bangers on it, and then you've got sort of the tonight type songs, little string arrangements and whatnot. And it doesn't feel as bloated. And Billy Corgan's been known to write those huge, long, double albums and everything else. And they're usually pretty strong, but I would rather see a really clear, concise, and focused record from him. And to me, that's what this new album really is.
Mhm.
Uh, Actually, it's kind of funny. One of my good friends who is a hardcore Pumpkins fan, I asked him the other day, he lives in the States, and I was like, dude, can you make me your dream Smashing Pumpkins set list? And I said, I only have one condition that you open up with Eden, the first song from the new album, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
All week, man, I've just been listening to my buddy's dream set list of the Pumpkins, man, and it's so good. So they have so many tracks that you like the hits are great and everything else, but like once you kind of get past the hits, there is so much good material there that like people don't even realize, like. But yeah,
Oh, 100%. If there's anyone watching this at some point that wants to dive deep into the Pumpkins, that's your goal
nah,
right there. Aeroplane Flies High.
Oh,
Fantastic. There's some deep stuff. There's some covers on there. That's pretty cool though. I used to be a big Pumpkins guy. Maybe
man.
I still am. I don't know.
I love the Airplane Flies High, like the song, like the big
Yeah,
8 minute long tune. Oh man, that riff is so doomy. I love it. It's
yeah.
awesome.
There's some cool covers out there, and they just have so much stuff that like even fans that I've been a fan since Siamese Dream, right? And I don't think I was old enough for the whole Gish thing. I was probably still pretty young on that one, but Siamese Dream, I remember sitting at my buddy's house listening to it all the time, and being a fan of them since then. There's still so many songs I've never heard from them because
Right.
they just got so much unreleased stuff. They got so many B-sides, so many demos out there, and I just discovered a song the other day listening to the Melancholy, like the deluxe box. There's so many songs, and you start hearing like the Sandland demos, and it's crazy how much stuff is out there.
See, that's what's so cool is that, like, the fact that Billy Corgan has been able to write and record and release all this stuff, in a sense, that's sort of kind of like, I'm not Billy Corgan, that's not what I'm saying, but like having such a large discography, like, and it's endless what you can discover, right? Like,
Hmm.
at my own music, I mean, that's in a sense sort of what I'm trying to do. And I'll be the first to admit that not every song I've put out is a banger. I know that for a fact, but at least it's out there, right? And maybe what I think sucks might actually be quite good to somebody else. And that approach to just recording everything, and like the same way that like Billy Corgan does with the Pumpkins, I find that so fascinating. A lot of the artists that I really admire are guys that have like their discographies are massive. Like for example, I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan. He's the man to me. Actually, above the Division bell, you can't really see it, but there's a big Alice there. And his ability to delve into different genres and, in my opinion, do them pretty well. I think that's really cool, and to me, that's a sign of a really good artist. When you can look back on an artist's career and you can go, like for example, with Adore, nothing that they did in their career sounds like Adore other
Hmm.
than Adore, and like
Yeah.
that's its own era, right? So like, as a player, as a songwriter myself, I love going through these little phases of like, ooh, this is my electronic phase, this is my acoustic phase, this is my thrash metal phase,
Yeah.
and just attempting to delve into these genres and put your own spin on them. I mean, that to me is like the most interesting artists out there, that aren't just doing the same thing over and over again. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If it ain't broke, why don't fix it, right?
Hmm.
But I love when you see an artist that can sort of change, and do it at their own will, not because they feel like they have to.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing that bands eventually they're going to have to evolve, right?
Absolutely.
Some don't, some have the same sound they had so many years ago. But it's kind of like what you said earlier with the recording thing. Is every EP you almost want to almost in a sense a bigger sound, right? But the evolving of bands, and just back to Pumpkins for a second there, that they just evolved, right? Until Adore came out. Neil Young went through the same thing. Like Neil Young, you listen to something from '67, and then you get to his Transformer album, and it's like, well, what just happened here, right? And even the Beatles. I always say my favorite part of the Beatles is you know when they were on drugs.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
best Beatles was that Sergeant Pepper era, right? Like when they started experimenting and evolving as a band, then you start seeing how good they really were, right? And
Exactly.
you can listen to that British Invasion, I forget what show it was over here. Uh, Not Dick Clark, I forget that guy, but they come over the big invasion in America, and it's all the same, happy stuff, and then you get to something like Strawberry Fields and
Oh,
I Am
man.
the chorus like crazy.
Yeah, that one of my favorite tunes by the Beatles is the Magical Mystery Tour, which is such a weird, like, I'm pretty sure it was actually Cheap Trick that introduced me to Magical Mystery Tour, the song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the harmonies and that weird, like, modulated, the Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah, yeah.
So cool. Love it.
What was that song I was thinking of? A Day in the Life. Like that changed everything though, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sgt. Pepper, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like if you just follow that run, and I got a couple of friends, big Beatles fans. We have a group together, and we usually throw covers in, and every time there's cover in there, there's a Beatles song. Yeah. It's usually come together, but there's been a different group of Beatles covers, and there's one that goes a bit further back. I forget what it's called, but it's not my favorite one to play. But I like that older stuff or the later years, right? Abbey Road album is just there's some good stuff out there. So
I remember I was in a cover band where we used to do some strange Beatles stuff, and we used to do "I Want You, She's So Heavy," and like, what a fun song to play, Yeah. Oh man, I have to admit, I never need to hear "Come Together" ever again because I've heard every band and their dog play it.
Yeah.
Dive into
we do it with a talk box.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, okay. I'm into that. But yeah, man, diving into the Beatles stuff, man, like it's just endless what you can come up with. Like, I think at one point I actually used to play paperback writer too. You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. We used to do that acoustically very early on when I was getting into singing and stuff. That was a song that we used to play quite a bit. And yeah, man, but again, like the different eras, the different styles, the different genres. I love that when you really are diving deep into an artist, because you get to see all these different sides of who they are and these different layers, right? And like, that to me is the sign of a true artist, where you get all these different flavors and you're like, how did this person come up with whatever, Helter Skelter, and then Blackbird? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's the same guys. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, for sure, right? For sure. And you mentioned Cheap Trick earlier. When I was going through your songs, I noticed you have a cover of The Flame.
Yes,
I saw The Flame, and I'm like, I'm going to check it out and just see.
I recorded it kind of as an experiment. There's I released it during COVID, I believe, and I wanted to see if I could sing it, and yeah, it's okay. It's not my favorite, but anyway, there's a live version of The Flame on. It's called The Authorized Greatest Hits. It's the last track on the album. And it's a live version of it, and man, Robin Zander's vocals, they give me goosebumps. I haven't heard this song in a long time, but Robin Zander to me is like one of the most underrated, most underappreciated vocalists ever. Like for a guy who can do that kind of nice, pretty, clean, I want you to want me thing. And then, yeah, man, you should check out, if you haven't heard it, this live version of The Flame, dude. His vocals, they are haunting, dude. They are so good. But yeah, man, like Robin Zander deserves way more credit than what he gets.
Have you seen them before?
No, I actually missed them. I can't remember why, but yeah, they were in Winnipeg at the Rock the Block
Regent
thing. Oh,
what's that?
Right. Well, did they not do the Rock the Block thing?
They did. That's right. They did the Burt Block party or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and
they were and then they were at Club Regent. I saw them in 2002 with Aerosmith.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Rick Nielsen with that like 5-neck guitar going on.
I love the one that's like himself and the necks are his legs.
Yeah.
That is so hilarious, man. I love that.
For sure. Unreal.
Yeah.
So, I guess kind of wrapping things up, I wanted to just kind of run past you we got the Loud Awards coming up. I just had Dag on the earlier show. Your name came up again when we were talking, and everyone's talking about you, Matt. So, Loud Awards, and just kind of talking about earlier with just the support and everything. I told Dag, it's cool to see the recognition of the music of the heavier music, right? And how they're putting this on, and it's just promote. I see Badlands promotions everywhere. Every time I open my Facebook, something comes up of it, right? And it's great. And I said, the one thing that stands out too is that you're not only recognizing the bands, you're recognizing the fans as well. And it just really stands out. And a lot of people that I hear about, they go to these shows. I met a person the other day. We started talking, just mutual friends, and I'm pretty sure she was at the show last night. Is that Ruth Morris? And
Yeah.
she's now involved with him, and he had great things to say about her, and it's just one of those things that she's got the show in Steinbach she's doing coming up. She was at your show last night. Actually, I think the video I saw, or the clips I saw, was from her. And it's stuff like that. It's people like that out there that are always pushing and pushing and pushing, right? And just sharing this stuff and getting people's names out there, and just that little assistance on getting your name out there and getting heard, right?
Absolutely. There have been some people that I've managed to meet over the last, maybe 2 years. And Ruth, we met in person for the first time last night at the gig. And I mean, it was so cool in chatting with her. She was so passionate. You could see it in her eyes. Like, she was so excited to help build that scene and build up the Loud Music Awards. And she is so into supporting all of these bands. And like Chris Pollard is another one who she actually helped shoot my music video that I did with Trav and Ema for Let's Go Downtown. She is somebody who is so supportive of the scene. She is so passionate about local music and giving these bands a chance and being a voice for these bands. That it's one thing for the artist to be pumping their own stuff all the time, and I've found that from a marketing perspective, that if you're pumping your own music all the time and it's just you pumping it, it gets kind of lame in a hurry. But if you have other people that are on your side that are willing to vouch for you, like Ruth or like Jen or like Chris, just off the top of my head, those three come to mind. Those are the people that, like, oh my God, like I would give them all a big hug right now, because they have helped me substantially, and that's really what makes this whole scene work, right? I mean, the bands can promote each other, and that's great, but if there's no fans, it doesn't really work,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely right.
So yeah, like with what Dag has and his team have built, with the Loud Music Awards, I am so excited to see where it's going to go. If it wasn't for the Loud Music Awards, I don't think I would have or receive some of the recognition that I have. Like last year, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn because I'm still like blown away by this, is that last year I managed to take home Rock Band of the Year, Vocalist of the Year, and Guitarist of the Year, and it was just like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it, right? And I think that the Loud Music Awards, like, every province should have these if they don't already. It's giving some credibility to these bands that have been slugging it out and working really hard at their art and fine tuning their craft, and being recognized for it. And I think that is so important. And I've talked to Dag about this quite a bit over the years, and I've thanked him multiple times for all of his support. that he's given me, and you know, he's seen me on good nights and he's seen me on bad nights, you know, and because they happen, right? But you know, I am just so grateful that this thing exists at all, you know, because it gives me a place where I feel like my music belongs, you know, and sometimes when you're creating your own music, that's a really hard thing to find in certain places. You know, like when I look at Brandon, Manitoba, where I'm from, for example, you know, when I was coming up in the scene, as I mentioned earlier, you know, there was these bands that were like, there was literally a Kings of Leon tribute band, and like, you know, there was a scene, and it was really cool, but they really supported that sort of style, and my music was not that style, and I was almost shunned for it.
Hmm.
But you know, now, like when I look at Brandon, and I'm a guitar teacher and stuff, and one of the things that I focus on with people, like teenagers and stuff, who are looking to learn how to write songs and make their own bands and play their first shows and stuff, I sort of help coach them in a sense. And I don't care what style it is, man. I'm just like, if you have something to say and you have an instrument that you're willing to say it with, man, let's make this happen. I don't care if you're doing like whatever, like black metal or whatever, folk music or what, it doesn't matter. But as long as you're creating something,
Hmm.
I fully embrace that. And with Brandon, you know, the cover band scene has been, or the cover bands have been quite successful for obvious reasons. They're playing stuff that people know. But there are a lot of young kids in Brandon that are forming their own bands and starting to make their own music. And I think that is just the most beautiful thing ever, man. Like, you know, I have a really good friend of mine who he was learning how to play guitar, and he told me one time, he says, Matt, I keep playing or writing the same song over and over and over again. My strumming is the same. What do I need to do to change that? And I said to him, I was like, well, dude, just go and learn some covers. And his response was gold. He looks at me and he's like, why the hell would I do that? I don't want to play other people's songs. I want to play my own songs. And I've never forgotten that. And I mean, it's so easy when you're to get discouraged when you're creating your own stuff, because you know, you might have fear of ridicule or you know, rejection and whatnot. But I truly believe that, like, man, just like put the music out and just see what happens, right? What's the worst that can happen, you know? I think creating your own music is like essential to being, you know, a musician and being an artist, you know. Nothing against cover bands. I mean, like, you know, they have their place and they're good. And I've been in cover bands multiple times over my musical career, I guess. But I really love the idea of that kid saying, hey, Matt, I have this song and I don't know what to do for the bridge. You know, it's like, oh, well, sit down, let's figure it out, you know.
Hmm.
I love that. And I mean, it's because of guys like Dag and, you know, Ruth or Chris or Jen that make people comfortable in expressing their own thoughts, feelings, and ideas through music. And I think that's amazing. I can't thank them enough for that. I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing.
Hmm. Absolutely. Excellent. Well, it's been a great chat with you tonight, Matt. I'm gonna
Chat,
I'm gonna get you on another show. I think
absolutely,
I
man.
think
This
we
is
could go on a
awesome.
while here. We got a lot. So it's been a great chat with you tonight. Obviously, like I said, you were one of the mine that I wanted to get on the show to talk to, because you know, any band I've been talking to previously, there's some names that are coming up, and you're one of them that has almost come up in every one of them. So
Oh man.
so you're getting your name out there, and people are recognizing you. So
Oh dude. Well,
wish I could have made the show last night. It just wasn't in the cards last night.
Well,
I
there
might have
will
been I might have been asleep at the table last night. So
nice.
just based on tiredness itself.
Uh,
Um, but I will catch your next one in the city. I'm sure it'll be back. So
yeah, we're actually going to be performing at the Tap House the night before the Loud Music Awards. I'm pretty
perfect.
sure September 27th, I believe.
27th it'll be. Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because we have a new drummer. This guy's name is Craig Metric, and he is the most disciplined drummer I have ever worked with. He is the most musical drummer I've ever worked with. You know, going back to the Pumpkins, man, this guy, you know, he'll slap me when he hears this, but he honestly kind of reminds me of like Jimmy Chamberlain, you know.
Mhm.
And this will be his first show in Winnipeg with us, and I cannot wait. What he's doing to the songs already, he's changing some of them up, and you know, I'm really looking forward to going electric at the Tap House again. So
Awesome. Great to
yeah,
hear. Has that show been announced yet?
um, that's a good question. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe I just
Maybe you're spilling the beans.
oops. Uh-oh. Ah, well, that's okay.
That's all
Surprise.
right. You know what? That's good. And what a weekend that'll be then. You know, you got that. You got the Loud Awards the next day.
Absolutely,
Wow.
man. It's gonna be awesome, dude. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. How's your cat doing?
Oh, Krabby, he's
Eh,
doing wonderful.
Mine
He's
was just scratched on my door, made me think of yours. I
oh,
see your pictures of your cat, and you
oh,
like cats and guitars, so
no, it's so funny. Here's a fun fact about Krabby is that his name actually comes from the other Motley Crue singer, John Corabi. I'm a huge John Corabi fan. I love that guy's vocals. I go back and forth between John Corabi and Richard Patrick from Filter as being my favorite vocalists. And yeah, when I got my Siamese, I was like, originally I wanted to name him Vern, but I was like, he doesn't look like a Vern. And then the name Corabi came up, and it was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do
yeah.
that.
I'm gonna leave you with one more story. John Corabi.
Yep,
That's first of all, it's my favorite Motley Crue album.
me too.
Second, I saw him in 2003 or 4 playing guitars with Rat
Yep.
in Grand Beach, and he walked by me, and I was on the other side of the fence from him, and he's walking, and I said, "Hey, John." Of course, I had 17 beer in me, something like that. But anyway, I said, "Hey, John," and he came over and he said, "How the hell did you recognize me?" And I said, "Because you're the best thing that happened to Motley Crue." And then he went up and played with Rat, and in the meantime, the group of people I was with had like this poster paper, white poster paper, and we wrote in marker on it, "Karabi is Crue," and we held that thing up that whole show. And I
Yeah.
swear the singer for Rat was so pissed off at us. Gave Karabi all the credit that night.
Oh, that's sweet. That guy deserves way more credit than he gets, man. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, his vocals, man. Actually, he's in the Dead Daisies now, and they have a new track out. I can't remember the name of it, but dude, his vocals, he still got it, man. Like,
Oh,
and
yeah.
for a guy that like has to sing like that, like, yeah, man, phenomenal, man. Yeah, I love that dude. He is so good.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, it's been a good chat with you. We'll catch up later, but appreciate you being on the show.
Right on, man. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much for having me, dude. It's been a blast, man. I can't wait to do this again. We're gonna have a good.
Absolutely. We'll do
Uh,
it. We'll do it again September sometime.
all right, man. Sounds good, dude.
Okay. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
All right, man. Take care, man. Peace.
You bet.